If someone were to pay you 10 cents for every kind word you said, but take back from you a nickel for every unkind word you said, would you be rich or would you be poor? The other day, a guy in a blue car pulled in front of me without signaling. Kind of cut me off. He just really wasn't paying attention and didn't even look. He just pulled over without looking and without signaling. And, you know, I don't know about you, but I get irritated when people do stuff like that. And if that wasn't bad enough, he wasn't even going the speed limit. He was going slowly. And don't you hate when that happens? I do. So I hit my brakes and I honked my horn. And in the privacy of my car, I said the word, "You idiot." It just sort of jumped off my lips. And I was thinking, where did this guy learn how to drive? I started motioning for him to go faster. No, the speed limit's 65, 65. Have you ever done that? So good. I was thinking, you know, learn to drive or get off the road, jerk. Well, when I finally got an opening, I pulled around him, making sure that I gave him a seriously disgusted look. And I drove back, shaking my head. Well, have you ever gone off on somebody like that? Maybe not on the road, but maybe within the line in the grocery store, or towards the woman with the crying kids in front of you, or maybe on the bus, the person who was taking up 2 seats because they had their backpack or their stuff on the seat next to them, and you couldn't sit down. Or maybe at a sporting event, that loud, annoying, drunk fan a few rows ahead of you. Or maybe in your own home, to your spouse, or your kids, or your parents, or your roommate, or, you know, maybe you didn't go off on that person, but you had some choice words to say about that person later to somebody else. You know, in the past, I have struggled with how I spoke to people and how I spoke about people. It was really easy, it's always easy to speak kindly about people when they act the way we want them to, isn't it? But I would sometimes say things that were unkind when people didn't act the way I thought they should. Anybody with me? Like that guy in the blue car. It's just almost like my mouth has a mind of its own. It just kind of goes off. And I didn't seem to have any trouble following right along. Have any of you struggled with this? Does it matter? Does it matter? Does it really matter? I mean, didn't the guy who cut me off kind of deserve it? Well, we might all think that he did, but James tells us that what I said to him, even in the privacy of my own car, does matter. In fact, it matters a lot. Why? Why does it matter so much? Because words are more than just words. Words carry power. They have the power of life and death. What comes out of our mouths has the power to build people up and bring life, or tear them down and cause death. And this morning we're going to dig in to the book of James to see what James has to say about this. If you have your Bibles, or if you just want to take a look in the words printed in your bulletin, you can follow along with us in James chapter 3. We'll be in verses 1 through 10. And I'll be reading from the New Living Translation. Well, starting with verses 1 and 2. It says, "Dear brothers and sisters, not many of you should become teachers in the church, for we who teach will be judged more strictly." Before I go on, I just want to pause there for a minute and say, I hope this warning doesn't scare any of you off. We need teachers, and we need Bible study leaders, and when God calls you, I hope that this won't scare you away. Let's go on. Indeed, we all make many mistakes, for if we could control our tongues, we would be perfect, and we could also control ourselves in every other way. So no perfect people, right? None of us is perfect. If I were perfect, I would not have yelled at that guy in the blue car. I would have had control over my mouth. And James says that if we could control what comes out of our mouth, then we would be able to control ourselves in every other way as well. So it's kind of a indicator of how well we control the rest of ourselves, what comes out of our mouth. James reasons that corrupt speech corrupts the whole body, and that corruption of the body sets in motion the entire course of our lives. The things that come out of our mouths will affect our lives as well as the lives of others around us. If we fail to control our speech, we will most certainly fail to control our actions as well. So don't go thinking that just saying something is the same thing as doing something. Because if we say it, chances are we will do it at some point. So James goes on to give us 3 illustrations to help us understand this power that we have in our words and the effect that it can have on our lives and the lives of others. In his first illustration, James compares our tongue to a bit in the mouth of a large horse. He says, verse 3 says, we can make a large horse go wherever we want by means of a small bit in its mouth. So I have a bit and a pair of reins here this morning. I mean, first take a look at how small this is. It's just a little metal piece, and it's big for my mouth. Well, maybe not that big, but it's very small when you consider the size of a horse. A horse is really large and a very powerful animal. Think about this. One of the largest horses, a Clydesdale, stands about 6 feet tall on average and weighs close to 2,000 pounds. Think of controlling that enormous animal with something small like this. Thoroughbreds, which are bred for running distance, can be clocked at over 40 miles per hour. And a quarter horse, who is bred for short distances and speed, can reach 50 miles per hour in short bursts. In 2006, a horse in Lansing, Michigan, pulled a record 5,300 pounds. And yet, we can master these enormous and powerful animals with a small piece of metal and some leather straps. Amazing. A small tug, take a look here, we put this in the mouth, and a small tug, one way can make the horse turn, and small tugs with on both of them can even make the animal stop altogether. It's quite amazing to think that we can control it with just that little piece of metal. We can determine the entire direction of the animal. And in James' second illustration, he compares the tongue to the rudder of a ship. Verse 4 tells us that a small rudder makes a huge ship turn wherever the pilot chooses to go, even though the winds are strong. So think about a large cruise ship. A cruise ship can be 1,180 feet long, about 100,000 tons, and can carry over 6,400 passengers. It travels about 30 knots, which is approximately 45 miles per hour. And this large and powerful ship is steered with just a rudder, which is very small in comparison with the rest of the ship. Now, the rudder on a big cruise ship like that might be as tall as I am. But when you consider that the ship itself is 1,180 feet long, a rudder is really not that large. And when you think of smaller boats, you know that the rudders are just these little pieces of metal that go into the water. You can control where the ship goes and the boat goes just with that rudder. Verse 5 says that in the same way the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches. In ancient thinking, the human body was a microcosm of the universe. In other words, it was a small example of the way the entire universe operated. It was a world within a greater universe. And the tongue was part of this microcosm, or this small world, and it has the power to speak other worlds, if you will, into existence. Words can create entire worlds. Stay with me. The tongue is a very small part of our body, but it is very powerful, and it has the ability to determine our direction. Just as a small bit determines the direction of a horse, our mouth, our tongue, can steer us, can guide us, and change our direction. Just like a rudder steers a small boat, our tongue can steer us either toward evil or away from evil. And the words we speak can call into existence worlds of evil or worlds of good. And then James' third illustration, he asks us to consider the big things a tiny spark can do. Verses 5 and 6, it says, "But a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire, and the tongue is a flame of fire. It is a whole world of wickedness, corrupting your entire body. It can set your whole life on fire, for it is set on fire by hell itself." Now, I grew up in Southern California, and, in Minnesota we have tornado season. In California we always have fire season. Fire season is usually July, August, September, because that's the hottest, driest time of the year. It doesn't rain all summer long, and like here in Minnesota we get rain all summer and everything's nice and green. In California, by the end of the summer, everything is really brown. All the hillsides are brown, and it is a desert after all, and it's volatile. Any tiny little spark can set off a fire. And we always think of people carelessly dropping their matches or tossing a cigarette. It can be as simple as a piece of glass with the reflection of the sun in 100-degree heat can spark a forest fire. Or the exhaust from a car, or the backfire from a motorcycle. I mean, it doesn't, or a lightning strike in a storm. It doesn't take much to set off that dry hillsides and valleys. So, once it started, one little spark is all it takes to set those hills ablaze, and once it started, it's almost impossible to stop. Now, have any of you been, I'm sure you've been following the news reports, not only in California, but places like Oregon and Colorado and lots of other states have been experiencing this same thing that we always experience every single year in California, where a tiny spark has started a fire that is covering hundreds and hundreds of acres, destroying people's homes, driving animals out of their habitat. It's just devastating to see a runaway fire and how it can demolish so much. And it's even more horrifying to experience it firsthand. I can remember being up on the shake shingle roof of my house when I was with my father when I was a kid, with hoses in our hands, wetting down the shingles in hopes that the fire that was coming down the hill quickly towards our house wouldn't burn our house to the ground. I remember my parents packing my brothers and me into our car with our 2 dogs and our 2 cats and our parakeets and our 2 hamsters and the fish. We drove off as ash fell from the sky and landed in large clumps on the windshield of the car. It was frightening, it was terrifying, and we felt helpless and afraid. We knew what that fire had the power to do, and there was nothing we could do to stop it. We'd done everything we could, and now it was just off to the direction of the fire, and we couldn't stop it. The power of a fire can be terrifying, and a fire out of control is just devastating. It kills and it destroys, it consumes everything in its path. It can destroy a person's whole world. I felt like my world had suddenly gotten very small. I was leaving one world behind when we drove down the street away from that house, and now my world was all that inside that one little car. Everything that was my world was driving good thing. It provides heat and warmth. It provides light. You can cook with it. It's beautiful to look at. Who doesn't like a romantic dinner by candlelight or sitting by a cozy fire or a crackling campfire? I love the feel of it. I even love the smell of it. But the tongue is like fire. It's powerful. It is able to bring life and warmth and light and beauty if it's used correctly. And it's equally capable of causing death and destruction with one little word. One spark. Proverbs 18:21 says that death and life are in the power of the tongue. So, okay, let's switch gears here for just a minute. Rather than imagining what it's like to be the victim of the fire, let's think about if we were the ones who caused the fire, if we were the ones who started it and started that devastation running rampant. What would it feel like if you knew you were the one that caused that kind of destruction? All it would take is a carelessly discarded cigarette or a match or driving your motorcycle through the dry grass or a tiny spark from a charcoal grill or a campfire. And like that tiny spark in a dry bush, have you ever started a raging fire with something that you said? Something that once you said it, you couldn't take it back. That began a devastation in a relationship or in a person and their lives. Something that you spoke carelessly in anger. It sparked a blaze that you couldn't stop. It was too late. Things like that usually happen when I'm angry. Maybe for you too. Lawrence J. Peters wrote, "Speak when you are angry, and you will make the best speech you will ever regret." I have regrets. I've hurt people and I've hurt myself by making angry speeches that I later regretted. And I'm wondering if any of you sitting here today have experienced that same thing. Are you in the same boat as me? Perhaps? I'm guessing that many of you are. Words create worlds. And we can use our words to build worlds for the kingdom of heaven, or we can use them to bring the kingdom of hell into our world, a world of wickedness. The words we use are a matter of heaven and hell, life and death. And I don't know about you guys, but for me sometimes it's really hard to keep my mouth in check, to control my words, even though I know what can happen and if I'm not careful. Now, it sounds like a simple matter of self-control, right? Self-control or self-discipline, but you know, it really goes much deeper than that. It's not as easy as it sounds. Listen to what James tells us in verses 7 through 10. Starting in verse 7, it says, "People can tame all kinds of animals, birds, reptiles, and fish." Verse 8, "But no one can tame the tongue. It is restless and evil, full of deadly poison. Sometimes it praises our Lord and Father, and sometimes it curses those who have been made in the image of God. And so blessing and cursing come pouring out of the same mouth. Surely, my brothers and sisters, this isn't right. So one moment we claim to be followers of God, and the next breath we say hurtful things that harm the people around us. Genesis 1:27 tells us that all human beings are made in the image, the likeness of God. We all bear His image. And when we dishonor any human being with our words, we dishonor God. With our words, we can slash a person's reputation. We can slash their sense of self. We can beat down a child and crush their spirit. We can humiliate, belittle, gossip, and curse. We can destroy a person's entire world with our words. And James says, it's not right. It's not as it should be. And this is where we, as the church, get in trouble with the very people that we're trying to reach. When they see the incongruencies in our words, 1 minute praising God and the next minute cursing other people, they shout, hypocrite! Remember we talked about being hypocrites a couple weeks ago. If we hope to reach unchurched people, we have to learn to control the way we speak to everyone, not just the people that we like and not just the people who do the things or behave the way we think they ought to behave. Even when people irritate us, even when people offend us or threaten us or hurt us, we have to learn to control our words. But you see, that's not an easy task. Did you notice the bad news in verse 8? Take a look at it again. James says that no one can tame the tongue. Great. So what hope do we have? What hope do we have? What do we do? Well, the bit in the mouth of a horse doesn't do any good by itself to control where the animal goes. Somebody has to be holding on to the reins. And whoever has the reins in their hands has control over the entire animal. So I'm going to ask you, who has their hands on your reins? Is it you? Is it me? My reins? If we hold the reins in our own hands, what hope do we have of controlling what comes out of our mouth? We have to give those reins to God and allow God to be the one in control. It's the same way with steering a boat and turning the rudder of the boat. It's the captain of the ship who has their hand on the wheel or the handle of the rudder that determines where the ship is going. Who has their hand on your wheel? Who's controlling your rudder? Again, I'm going to ask you, is it you or is it God? And James says, if it's us, folks, we're going to fail every time. If it's us, we have no hope of controlling what comes out of our mouth. But if we turn control over to God and let God steer that ship, then we have hope that what comes out of our mouth will build life instead of death. When we're tempted to speak unkindly about someone or lash out verbally at someone, stop and pray. Stop and think. Oh, this is what I want to say. That means I'm probably the one right now who has these reins. We have to intentionally stop every time and turn those reins over to God and say, God, help me. This is what I want to say. This is what I automatically say. So Lord, help me out here because I can't do it myself. And the more we turn over that kind of control to God, the easier it's going to get each time. And the more automatic it's going to become for us to turn that kind of control over to God instead of trying to do it ourselves. It takes repetition. It takes turning it into a habit, a constant habit of turning the reins over to God. And in this age of technology and social media, I also want you to consider your written words. A me text or a group text to somebody about somebody else that can just destroy their words, or a posting on Facebook, slamming, even our government officials. We're creating worlds, folks. It's okay to not like somebody's politics, but when we badmouth people on social media, what does that say about us as Christians? And the world who is watching us, what do they think of us who proclaim to love God and then curse people openly on Facebook? let's be careful and let's turn those reins over to God before we speak. John Wolfgang von Goethe said, treat people as if they were what they ought to be, and help them to become what they are capable of being. What if we intentionally use our words to build people up instead of tearing them down? What if we all tamed our tongues, with the help of the Lord, of course, and paid attention to what came out of our mouth or our keyboard? What would the world that we create look like? At our church, at our schools, at work, at home, in our communities, in our neighborhoods, in our relationships, in our friendships? What would the world look like if we used our words for love and not hate? Words are very powerful. We all scream about the abuse of power by the governments and politicians, by unions and business people and people in high positions. But folks, we hold a lot of power, not just those people in high places. We hold so much power in the words that we speak. Are you willing to be intentional about building people up instead of tearing people down? Remember that your